What's up, everybody? This is episode 88 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Matter of fact, no, episode 87 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout outs to everybody for supporting us thus far. For those who haven't seen any of our episodes thus far, go check it out on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. Before we start, we got to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Players Circle. It's the new interactive app for basketball players all around the globe. If you're a basketball player, college coach, scout, or whatever, go check that out on the Apple Store, on iTunes. But without further ado, we have a very special guest here this evening. This man is a broadcaster, a promoter of some of the finest events. He's promoted games, high school games, for plenty of famous people, as you know, the late Kobe Bryant, Dajuan Wagner, LeBron James, and so on and so on. He's a fixture around the Philadelphia area. Without further ado, I give you Mr. Jeremy Treatman. Jeremy, thank you for coming on to share your story.
Thanks, Dave. It's my pleasure to be with you here.
Indeed. So let's start from the very beginning. When did basketball first start for you?
Basketball, in terms of business, I would say in 1989 or 90, when I was pretty young and I started writing for the Philadelphia Inquirer, like anybody, I wanted to be covering the 76ers or the Flyers or the Phillies or the Eagles or the Big Five and Temple. You know, Temple was my team, and I wanted to be Temple's play-by-play announcer. But I was just biding my time, and I got in through the Inquirer and covering the high schools. And at first, I wasn't thrilled with that, but then high schools became my life, and these kids became my life. So I really started enjoying it. So I was covering high school basketball pretty much since 1989. I started at a radio network broadcasting high school basketball and football through the 90s. And then the Inquirer High School Sports Show started. It was my first break for television. And I got to do the first on-air stories for Kobe Bryant. Later for LeBron James, his first TV story. That was on a national high school sports show. I also became Temple's play-by-play announcer briefly, and I was LaSalle University's men's basketball announcer briefly for about 3 or 4 years. And then around 99, 2000 is when I came up with the ideas to do the events. And that first event was in 2000, where I really was doing it for get my television career going, Dave. I hired myself as the announcer. I talked Comcast Sports Net into giving me some time. I paid for the time. I paid Temple for the arena, paid Comcast Sports Net, and I put this game together, and I hired Rick Mahorn to be my color analyst and gave Rick his entree into announcing. He's the Detroit Pistons announcer, so it worked out for Rick. And started broadcasting this game with Camden with Dajuan Wagner, not DJ Wagner, but DJ's dad, Dajuan Wagner, and the late, great Eddie Griffin from Roman Catholic. The second game was Jameer Nelson playing. Almost 9,400 people came through the building at Temple. We had promoted it for months. We did it again the next year, and we were pretty good the next year. And the year after that was LeBron James at the Palestra, and I decided to make the switch from announcer to really to promoter. Promoter became kind of bigger because it became like without even realizing, it became a pretty big business. And I got, but I did get what I really wanted, which was Comcast hired me to be the play-by-play or color analyst for basketball and football games for the next 18 years. So from like 2000 up to about 2017, I did all their games here in the Philadelphia area and some in New Jersey, some in New York.
Wow.
So that's I'm sure I'm missing some big parts out, but that's kind of how it happened.
No, I mean, we're going to touch on all those things first, but let's start from the very, very, very beginning. So where did you grow up, and what was your love for sports like in the early days?
Okay, I appreciate it. I grew up actually near where Kobe was from when he came back from Italy, Lower Merion. And I was very little, and it was really baseball that got me into sports. So we had an announcer, Harry Cowles, who you probably know. He did the Chunky Soup commercials. He was the voice of NFL films. He passed away in 2009. He was the Phillies announcer for, my God, 37 years. And I think he's the best announcer of all time, or one of the top 2 or 3. And like many kids growing up in the 70s in Philly, we wanted to be Harry Cowles. So I would simulate his voice, and I'd play my own version of All-Star Baseball game with the spinner, and I'd be announcing the games with his voice, and I'd make my own shows. So it was baseball. It was all about baseball back then. And then I got into basketball and football and hockey, but baseball always was at the top. Probably the 76ers started piquing my interest from ages 14 to 17 when, the 80 to 83 teams with Dr. J, Tony, Bobby Jones, Mo Cheeks, Moses Malone, later Charles Barkley. And I mean, how could you not love this team? The 76ers went to the NBA Finals in 77, 80, 82, 83. So I think I started loving basketball. And then I was a little kid and I was a young kid. I was 16 as a senior year in high school. I got good at basketball. Well, good for me. Intramurals, like an intramural level, not a Division III level, but an intramural level. And I had an open gym and I started coaching, and I eventually became an assistant coach with Lower Merion and Kobe, and I played a lot, and I just started. So my love of baseball, I think basketball surpassed it somewhere in the mid 90s. And I knew I just wanted to be involved in basketball. I wasn't good enough to be a head coach. I wasn't good enough to be a player, but I found I wanted to be a broadcaster of games. And John Chaney was my idol, so I wanted to be Temple's announcer. And that's what I was really hoping for. But something bigger actually came out of all this.
Mm-hmm. So, growing up around the Philly area,
yep,
was the Sixers your favorite team?
Yes, they were. And so, of course, I'm a Philadelphia guy, so all my teams are Philly and Temple, with one exception. Because of my affiliation with Kobe Bryant and my closeness to the Bryant family at the time, when he went to LA from 96 until he stopped playing, I think 2016, I was a Lakers fan. So I was a Lakers fan more than the Sixers fan. I blew off the Sixers. I was a horrible local Philadelphia fan. And I just loved the Lakers for all the years Kobe was out there. And then the second he left, I'm all about the Sixers again. And I'm so frustrated with what's going on with the Sixers. But maybe with some of these new hires, I'd love to see the Sixers win again. Now, and especially now that the Lakers just won another championship. They've got enough now. Now I'd like to see my hometown team get them.
So, talk about going to Temple University as a student.
Yes, sir. Well, here's how that happened. That was, all my stories are kind of roundabout and interesting and unconventional. Everything in my life is unconventional. I started out at a school called Washington University in St. Louis. I went there for 2.5 years. I wasn't doing so well in my fifth semester, so I self-punished myself. Felt guilty about wasting my parents' money because it wasn't an inexpensive college. And I came home. I said, I'm coming home. I need to come home because I got to get my act together. So my best friend's dad was the president of Temple, and he talked me into going to Temple, where I got in as a transfer to Penn, where I had always wanted to go, but I didn't get in at first as an undergrad, but I got in as a transfer student through the College of General Studies. So I went to Penn and Temple at the same time with the intention of going back to WashU once I felt like I got my act together. But then when I went to Temple, I went on audition to be their basketball play-by-play announcer. I was a complete stranger. And within one semester, they offered me the 76ers beat and the Eagles beat as the 19-year-old reporter. And once I started doing that and getting locker room access and interviewing Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish and Isaiah Thomas and all these NFL players and getting sound interviews for the radio station for Temple, I said, no more Penn, no more WashU. I'm staying at Temple. I love it here. And this is what I want to do. And that it kind of springboarded me.
Wow. Like, how was it with getting all these interviews with, the Eagles and also at the old Spectrum with the Sixers? Did you ever get to interview Dr. J?
Yes, I did. And I have a Dr. J story because Dr. J is probably my favorite player of all time next to Kobe. And so after the locker room, like one day, there's it wasn't as crowded as in today's world, but there were maybe 10 to 30 reporters a night. The Sixers were hot back then. They were winners and they were always NBA final contenders. And I kind of stuck my mic in, and at the very end I said, Doc, do you have a second? And I was totally expecting him to say, no, I'm done. This is after everybody disbanded. He said, yeah, come over here. And he gave me a one-on-one. And those are things you just don't forget.
Wow. Shout outs to Dr. J. That's big right there.
He's a good man. He's a good man. Even recently, The Voice, Well, everyone knows The Voice. The
Shout out to
Voice.
Jake.
The Voice actually got me into Dr. J's charity event in Atlantic City, which is not attended by a lot of media. And you get to stand in the row at the casino, and Dr. J gives you all the time in the world. So 2 years ago, I mean, obviously he wouldn't remember me, but he gave me a lot of time then too. He's just a class guy.
Wow, that's big,
And a New Yorker from Long Island.
Shout outs to the Temple graduating class of 1988.
That's right.
That's big right there.
So, by the way, so here's where my love for college basketball really came.
All right, go ahead.
So in 86, 87, as a transfer student, Temple goes 32-4, ranked 4th in the country. The next year is the 87, 88 year, the best team in school history. They're 32-1, number 1 in the country. Tim Perry, my best friend in sports. You know, it was a great Mark Makin's freshman year. It was a great time to be at Temple. It was old McGonigal Hall. John Chaney's my idol. I mean, it was a great time to be there. They were in their heyday.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Temple used to be so good. Not that they're not good now, but you know they have some great years with Chaney.
They were a whole nother level. From 85 to 2001 was a whole nother level, and we haven't got back there, but hopefully
they get back under Aaron McKee.
Hopefully Aaron McKee can get there.
Yeah.
But Eddie Jones and Aaron McKee's and Rick Brunson's don't grow on trees. You really have to recruit, and you got to get these guys.
Yeah, they got that Nike deal, so hopefully that will basically be an incentive for the kids to come over there.
I hope so. It's just I don't think they like playing in that conference. You know, I think the Big East is more appealing for Villanova kids and the TV contract. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of travel if you go to Temple. You're playing teams like in the AAC, like Tulane and Wichita State, and I mean, I would think it's pretty fun, but it's far. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. I just wish we could get back to that level. As a Temple, I'm a Temple fan.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, you have every right to feel that way. You know, you're a graduate of that school, and you saw them when they were great. So it's only natural that you want what you want with them.
But well, sure. Five Final Eights was pretty exciting, and we only won 2 NCAA games since then. So
wow,
it hasn't been that great.
So after college, did you get right into coaching, or did you still do the journalism thing?
I think I got the Inquirer gig first. So I was a stringer. And I actually started my own radio network, as I said. I was about 23 years old, and I did that right through when I started the Scholastic play-by-play network, turned into like producing and promoting TV games, and these events that you've been going to all these years and supporting me, and I appreciate that, by the way. And so it kind of went newspaper, radio, then television, then play-by-play. So the things I really love, TV and play-by-play, I got last. But this is what I tell my campers. You know, and I also started the play-by-play broadcasting camps in '36. I teamed up with my partner a year later, and we started putting them all over the country. But you tell your kids, I tell the kids, just find a way to get in. Find a way to get in. Do a good job. Make a good impression. Eventually, you'll get to where you want to get. And don't underestimate where you are. Like I was one of those people originally didn't want to cover high schools, and you know how fun it is to cover high schools and how meaningful it is to help kids, and that's how I feel now. Like I wouldn't want to do anything else. Yeah,
some people are trying to get me to cover middle school now, but I really don't want to do it for multiple reasons. I feel like with high school, that you could always backtrack. You could always find information on high school. Middle school, you can't really do any of that. And on top of that, there's so many people trying to profit off of the middle school game. It's just sad. It's like these little kids, with all these rankings, they're trying to basically, set them up for failure. That's just how I feel about it. Like those
middle school's a little young. I don't think I've ever even interviewed a middle school kid. Right. Except for Monet Davis when she was pitching World Series, but that was an exception.
Right.
She was getting a lot of publicity. I mean, and I wasn't the one giving it to her. ESPN was. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's too young. Even sometimes I think some of the high school things I do are, I put a lot of pressure on Maureece Rice, for example. That was one time when I brought LeBron to Philly, and the best teams were probably Cardinal Doherty or Chester or St. Joe's Prep. But I wanted a Philly team to play LeBron. I thought that was the right thing to do. And Maureece Rice was about to break Will Chamberlain's record. But when he had 0 points through 3 quarters and was 0 for 11, and I just felt like the pressure got they were losing by 50 points. And then he somehow scored 13 points in the fourth quarter. And I felt so much better because I was afraid I may have ruined that kid's life. And then Dajuan Wagner, when he played in that first game I talked about earlier, he broke his pinky or knuckle right here on his shooting hand. Right 3 or 4 days before the game, doctor had him in a pin. He shouldn't have played. He did that for me, and he knew I was really, promoting that game for so long. And he went 4 for 23. He couldn't even hold the ball. I'm always indebted to Dajuan Wagner.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that story a little bit later. Okay. But now we're gonna talk about KOBE, the Black Mamba, Mamba mentality, Kobe Bryant. So how did you and Kobe get acquainted?
Okay, so I was lucky from Kobe's age 12 to 22 to know him during those years pretty well. After that, I didn't know him well, but it was always great when you'd see him once or twice a year, up until the time of his death. I just feel like we're just starting to get reconnected, and he was coming around. His edge of being a player was over. I think his daughter was going to play in my girls' event. I have the Kobe Bryant Classic here in Philly, and I think he would have come this year. It's so many tragedies on the tragedies, but how it happened was I got assigned Lower Merion as my beat for the Inquirer for boys basketball. So that was my team. His dad, Joe, was coaching at Akiba Hebrew Academy when he came back from Italy, and he was the girls' coach. And I forgot to say that I was the boys' coach there before I went over to Lower Merion. So I got to know Joe, and I'd done a story on Joe, and Kobe would always come by. And so I secretly got to see this kid that nobody else even knew about for half of his 8th grade year and all of his 9th grade year. I wrote his first articles, and it was only Joe that got me all excited about Kobe, because Joe told me Kobe was going to be 1,000 times better than him, and was 1,000 times better than him at age 12, 13, 14. And I was looking at Joe Joe, I was a little kid. I remembered you. You were a legend in Philly. You were supposed to be the next Magic Johnson. You were 6'10" and could do everything. And you played in the NBA 8 years. You played overseas. You won an MVP in Italy. You really think he's better than you? He's it's not even close. So I kept my eye on Kobe. And then when I saw him in 10th grade, I was like, oh my God, the potential of this kid. And it was really funny because it took to the 11th grade year with Sonny Vaccaro's ABCD camp where people realized that Kobe Bryant wasn't just Kobe Bryant putting up 35 points against Marple, Newtown, and Radnor and all these little public schools in suburban Philadelphia. I don't think the people in the city or the real pundits thought he was as good as he was, because he was scoring against terrible teams. And I remember by 11th grade, the high school sports show started. I did all the stories on him, and I couldn't take my eyes off him. I went to every game, and I remember me and his high school coach were like, Michael Jordan's in our backyard and nobody knows it. It's just it was really funny. And I was telling people this kid's the next Michael Jordan. It's not even close, and nobody believed me. So it took a long time for people to come around. And then even when he made his decision after his senior year, where he was incredible, he was bashed by his decision to go from high school to the NBA. And at the time that was controversial in 1996. Garnett did it the year before, but Kobe was a 6'6" guard who spoke 3 languages, had a good SAT score, had good grades, could have gone to Duke on his own merits. If his name was David Cordova or Jeremy Treatman, he would have got into Duke. So he just had a singular focus. He wanted to get the NBA. He had the secret in him, and he let me in on that secret at the beginning of the 12th grade year. I was like, oh my God, he's going from high school to the NBA. This is big stuff. So those are some of the Kobe stories.
Yeah. So that senior year, what was it like, being around him? how big was, you know, the whole phenomenon?
It happened like overnight, like when he got declared the #1 player in the country after he outplayed Tim Thomas and Lester Earl and Mike Bibby and Jermaine O'Neal and all those guys, and they were, you know, anybody who was at that ABCD camp and saw him, just he was like twice as good as anybody there, and you could see the athleticism and the brains and the willpower and the work ethic and everything he had. It was so 12th grade year was, as the year went on, it was like Greg Downer brought me in and he said, Kobe Bryant's yours. I don't want any phone calls about Kobe. I'm passing on your number to anybody who asks about Kobe. I don't want to deal with this. We got to win a state championship. I got to concentrate on coaching. And I'm like, no problem with me. Fine with me. I love this stuff. So I was just so happy. I was so happy to have gotten that role. And it honestly felt like Bruce Springsteen was on our team. Just getting him on and off a bus was a hard. You think that sounds easy? You try to break somebody up when there's a line of 80 people trying to get your signature.
Yeah.
And it was eye-opening for everybody. And I knew Kobe as a family friend first, from, you know, through his dad, and then through a reporter. And now I'm an assistant coach, so I'm watching him every day in practices, and like, I don't know this part of Kobe. I don't know the Kobe that wants to win every drill. I don't know the Kobe that gets there 2 hours before everybody else. I don't know the Kobe that gets mad because there was a practice canceled and 14 kids are celebrating, and Kobe Bryant starts F-bombing and throwing a ball against the wall and saying, what do you mean we don't have practice? That's ridiculous. And, you know, he had a whole nother mentality. Like, this was the original Mamba mentality that I didn't know anything about. So I got to see it kind of firsthand. He worked hard. He really worked hard. So he had the combination of genes, work ethic, ambition, and talent. I mean, you know, it's not a surprise he got where he is. It's not a surprise that he's going to go. He's in everybody's top 10 somewhere, I believe.
Yeah. So you said, all right. So that day that he made that announcement, to go to the NBA draft.
Yep.
Like, you said that people bashed him. Like, why do you feel like people were so against his decision?
They didn't think he was ready. They didn't think he was good enough. They thought it would impede his progress. They thought it might hurt him academically or socially. The ones on radio and TV didn't think he was good enough, and they thought it was irresponsible of the parents, and they were ripping the parents for allowing it. You know, it's not like he came from a poor family or anything. He didn't need the money. He just wanted to go. So they were thinking about the 6'6", 17-year-old kid trying to get into a man's world, like so fast. And a lot of people didn't understand it. And there's also, you know, the obvious thing, which is there's haters. People are jealous of people who are great. People want to tear down LeBron James every day. You say it every day. People want to tear down Kobe Bryant. It's just people get jealous of like the superstars because they're better than us. They're better than us. Could you give me 1 second here?
Go ahead. All right, we're live now. So going back to those days. So had he gone to Duke, what do you think Kobe would have done?
Oh, I think they would have won the national title. He would have been the player of the year. He would have had the Grant Hill freshman year, the Christian Leitner senior year, times 2, times 3. I think he would have been the national player of the year as a freshman. And then he would have gone to the NBA after 1 year. So
rest in peace to the Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like you mentioned in the article, you know, Superman doesn't die.
Yeah, I have to confess, Greg Downer said that, and I used the line, and I didn't know they were going to use the line like that, so I had to call Greg immediately to say, you know, they're attributing something I said to something you said to me. Yeah. So that's one thing I tell my campers, you know, to be honest. So even though it was a great line, it wasn't mine, but it's totally true. Superman's not supposed to die. I think the line I had was. You saw that piece on NBC?
Yeah, I was looking at it.
Oh my God! After he died, I did 37 interviews in 2 days, and I was so worn out and tired.
Wow.
But I didn't say no to anybody, whether it was a middle school reporter, high school, college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Today Show came into my living room. The Today Show came into my living room. Yeah.
Wow.
And the reason being is I don't want anybody who did not know Kobe Bryant from 1992 to 2001 talking about him, because that happened before. That happened in the good times and the bad times. And I
Right.
think the people who knew him are the ones who should be speaking. And if
Exactly.
Coach Downer wasn't ready to speak yet, he was too torn up.
He was destroyed. Yeah.
Speaking for me was cathartic. So I like speaking about Kobe.
Right. Yeah, man. He will forever be missed. So moving forward, what was the Philly high school scene like in the 1990s and 2000s? High school, that is.
I mean, Philly's just like New York and Chicago and LA. I mean, you're talking one of the four greatest high school basketball markets ever. So, you got Rasheed Wallace in the early 90s. He's a number one player. You've got Kobe. He's a number one player. You've got Dajuan Wagner and Eddie Griffin. They're number one players. You got four number one players in the class right there. Later, Tyreek Evans, I think, was ranked number one in his class, like the mid 2000s. I mean, basketball's crazy competitive. The one thing I don't like is the Philadelphia Public League is not as strong as it used to be, because a lot of those kids, a lot of the really good kids end up in the suburbs or at a Catholic school. Just like Kobe Bryant stayed at Lower Merion with all the rumors that he was going to go to Roman Catholic, or he was going to go to this prep school or Oak Hill or that. He made it work at his little public school that was terrible at basketball before he got there. And I wish some of these kids at the public would play for their local public schools, but I understand, if you get a free education and maybe a better education at a local Catholic school, it's hard to turn down. Plus the coaching's great. So,
and
the
better,
exposure is great.
probably twice the exposure that they would have gotten at a public school.
That's right. The exposure is great. And although I truly believe any coach will find a great player in today's day and age. You don't need to go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, how about DJ Wagner going to Camden deliberately because he wants to be part of the legacy of his father and his grandfather?
Third generation. That's big right there.
They'll be the first grandfather, father, and son to go to the NBA.
And in 2023, they'll be, the first trio of All-Americans in the family. Yeah.
Yeah, they will. They will. They're going to make history. DJ's going to make history, and the success Dajuan would have had in the NBA if he hadn't got sick and hadn't got hurt. I predict all that for DJ. I think DJ will end up being a Hall of Famer.
So yeah, let's move forward to the Scholastic play-by-play. So how did that first game come about?
That was the game I was telling you about between Camden and Roman, and with Chester's the undercard game versus Pennsbury. It came about because I wanted to put together an event, and I really did it to springboard my broadcasting career. I wanted to show people. I mean, I'm already 33 years old, and it's like I don't want to go to South Dakota or Iowa. Like, I was a late bloomer, and I knew I was good enough to be a play-by-play announcer in a major market. So I literally bought my way on. I talked Comcast Sports Net into it, and which would be your SNY in New York. But I brokered the time. You want the 2-hour slot? You pay for the 2-hour slot. You want to put this high school game on that no one's going to watch? Then go ahead and do it. But as long as we get paid, we're fine with it. So they were very doubtful. We got phenomenal ratings for that game. We got phenomenal ratings. And when we had LeBron 3 years later on Comcast, we got phenomenal ratings again. And they said, you were right. And then they did high schools for 16 or 17 years.
So how did it feel proving the people from Comcast wrong after you really made that happen?
Yeah, Dave, thank you. That's one of the more proud moments of my life on a business side. Yeah, because we got a higher rating than Temple Villanova that year. And all these, we did. All the commercials.
For that one game.
Yeah. for that game got higher ratings than Temple Villanova on Comcast.
Wow.
So we had commercials going with Dajuan Wagner and Eddie Griffin and Jameer Nelson. They're on YouTube. You can find them. And people, there was a lot of buzz. I mean, people were talking about the game. I mean, we got almost 10,000 people came. So it was exciting. I mean, it's like a humongous risk, but it was worth it. I mean, it was.
So I mean, you probably could have went with anywhere to have that game, like First Union Center, which is now Wells Fargo, Palestra, Villanova's campus. Why Temple?
Because I'm a Temple guy, and honestly, I was subconsciously, legally trying to get John Chaney some recruits. I wanted Dajuan Wagner, Jameer Nelson, Eddie Griffin, and Arthur Barkley put right on like an unofficial home visit. But I think Temple was the right place. I think Temple was the perfect place because Roman Catholic's right there. They're on Broad Street. Camden's right across the river. I think it was the perfect location. Later, I did do things at the Palestra. But I had to see that it worked first.
Mm-hmm. January 2nd, 2000 was the start of a big thing.
You were there?
Nah, I was watching the game on YouTube not too long ago. I was only 6 years old at that time.
Yeah, you were young. Yeah.
No, 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah, so let's fast forward to 2002, the Palestra.
Yep.
Booking LeBron James to play against Maureece Rice.
Yeah.
Like that game was monumental. Like, how did booking LeBron come about?
I guess I'm more persuasive than I think. I saw LeBron play in 10th grade, and I went to some event in Delaware, and I was just curious. I heard so much about him, and I was like, and plus I was supposed to interview him for that National High School Sports Show, which I did. And I saw him play, and I called Coach Downer on a payphone. Remember that? A payphone? Remember what one of those are? Were they in your lifetime, Dave? And I said, I know this is going to sound sacrilegious, Coach Greg, but I think I'm watching somebody better than Kobe. And I'm like I can't believe what I'm seeing. He had a reverse layup that I didn't know anyone in high school would ever do again after Kobe Bryant. And I really wanted to do games with LeBron. So during his 11th grade year, I wrote, there was new coaches and there were 3 new athletic directors because I think the craziness there was too much. And they finally brought someone in who could handle it. And I kept pitching. They said, and I got the coach on the phone and I said, how'd you like to play at Madison Square Garden, the Palestra, the Dean Dome, Ohio State? I think that's what I said. And he said, all right, we'll take it under advisement. Calls me back 15 minutes later. Says, did you say the Palestra? I'm like, yes, I did. I said, I've always wanted to go to the Palestra. And I said, Coach Joyce, it's done. You got to come. And they went with me. I sent a fax, a whole proposal over. And I think the Palestra was the key that got Coach Joyce and they'll never forget that trip. Even though the game wasn't competitive, it was just it was an incredible experience.
Now, I also read in that Inquirer, I think it was the Inquirer article, that you tried to get Madison Square Garden, but the Garden wanted $90,000 up front. Yeah, Jeremy. So you said, all right. So
okay, I missed it. What'd you say?
Yeah. So in that article, that same article that I referenced earlier. So you said you tried to get Madison Square Garden, but they wanted $90,000 from you up front.
Man, you really do your homework. Where did you read that article? Mike Jensen's article?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that's a true story too. I called Madison Square Garden because I was going to match him up with Telfair. That game would have been crazy. If I had more,
wow.
Can I say the word balls?
All right, go on.
So I don't know what you heard, what you didn't hear, but when
Mm.
I was negotiating with the Madison Square Garden and pitching this LeBron versus Sebastian Telfair, St. Vincent-St. Mary versus Lincoln game, um, they told me we need $90,000 up front, and I just didn't have the money, and I didn't have quite the. It was just too risky, and in retrospect, big mistake. We would have sold out in a second, and I wish we had done it. I can't remember if that's when Telfair got hurt though. That was senior year. Oh no, Telfair got hurt as a senior. This is when he was a junior. Yeah, we would have been fine. It would have been really exciting, I think.
So yeah, like I think the 0-2 game with LeBron and Maureece Rice, Allen Iverson was at that game, correct? That 0-2 game, you guys had Allen Iverson in you had Allen Iverson in attendance that day.
December 20th, 2002. Yes, he did. He came, yeah. And years later, I ended up running the Allen Iverson Classic. So you just never know. You never know. I did mention it to him, but I'm not sure he put two and two together. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he nodded his head when I told him the story. Yeah, he came.
Wow.
He came as a fan. The whole Sixers team was there. I'm
Wow,
thinking.
not just him, the whole team. That's
Oh,
crazy.
how about every Eagles wide receiver? They asked for seats.
Wow.
I know Freddie Mitchell was sitting behind one of the backstops. Who else was an Eagles receiver back then? Was that the Calvin Williams? And there were a few Eagles that came. Yeah, LeBron had been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Everybody was talking about LeBron. This is pre-social media. That was a really exciting moment for Philly. That was a really exciting moment for me and for play-by-play classics for sure.
Wow, that's great. That's a great memory. So the game between Darius Washington and Sebastian Telfair Fordham, that was also yours?
No, it wasn't. And that's the game that messed me up because I believe that's a game that Telfair sprained his ankle. So that was the next year. That was 03, 04. I went to see it because Telfair was playing Kyle Lowry's team, Colonel Doherty, at the Palestra in my 03-04 season. And it's only game Telfair only scored 0 points. He tried to play on the sprained ankle, but he couldn't move. So it was kind of a shame. He sprained it when he won that game against Darius Washington, but I think he had trouble walking for about a month or so after that happened.
Yeah, I guess that's the reason they didn't show that in Through the Fire. They never showed the game against Kyle Lowry.
No, they weren't going to show that one. No, that was Telfair's worst game of his career. But you realize how good Kyle Lowry is now, don't you? Back then, everybody talked about Telfair, and they didn't talk about Jameer Nelson or Kyle Lowry.
The other two actually had great careers. One of them won a championship.
Yeah.
Sebastian, but
Kyle's headed to the Hall of Fame. He's getting close. I think Telfair was the better high school player, but just the better high school player. Tim Thomas was as good a high school player as there was, and it doesn't mean you're going to be a great college player or NBA player. The other intangibles, the stuff we talked about with Kobe. You really have to want it, the ambition, the work ethic, putting in the hours. And all that stuff's important. And Kyle Lowry's like that too. Kyle Lowry's, wasn't a partier. Kyle Lowry married his high school girlfriend and, raised a family. And even though he's got a reputation of being a wild man, he's not. He's not a wild man. He just worked hard. And I was looking up stats in the NBA, and I can't find anybody who got a little bit better every single year the way Kyle Lowry did. Kyle Lowry for 6 years was a journeyman. And then then he became a 6 or 7 time All-Star. And now you look at his numbers, and they're not Chris Paul's numbers, but he's pretty close to being a Hall of Famer.
So I'm sure nobody ever really asked you this question, but what goes into planning and putting together an event such as the one you have?
No, it's a good question. Obviously I've got an ego too, and I try to keep how do you top Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the games we've had with all these NBA players. Some years you can't because those players just aren't out there. But we all, I want to have a high quality event. I want to have the best teams, the best players, the best venues. And in 2011, unfortunately, the NCAA stopped letting us play in Division I facilities. That rule, there is a way to get to maybe do games in Division I facilities now, but I have to work with the schools on that so that they made new NCAA rules. So it was really the NCAA kind of stopped people like me. The run I had from 2002 to 2011 was memorable, but I think we got the reputation, and people want to play with us. We have 128 NBA players and 9 WNBA players playing in our events. So, if you want to be seen, if you want to be showcased, if you want to get some notoriety, and say you played in play-by-play classic like Kevin Durant and LeBron, I think that goes a long way. But all I do is call the best teams and the best players. Most of the teams lock me in for every year. So when you've done it a long time, they just they say, well, when are we playing and where? So for a lot of teams.
So, talk about the Scholastic play-by-play broadcast camps.
Okay. So in the 1990s, I wanted to start a sports broadcasting camp. My deep passion was always to be an announcer, and like I said, all the stuff I'm doing with play-by-play came about by accident, really. So it took me all the way until I was 36 to come up with a 3-day mini camp. I decided, I'm going to go for this idea, and it was like I said, maybe there's something I could do on the side. I got Comcast originally to work with me on it. They ended up pulling out, but I decided I was going to go for it anyway, and I got the Inquirer to write a story. And 71 kids came the first year, 124 kids that came the second year, and then the guy who was helping me, Steve Goldstein, my partner, who's now my partner, in 2004, we decided. I went to him. I said, "Would you help me and partner with me and do these things all over the country? And we could start with the East Coast." We've been doing them ever since, and it really grew. It's a more consistent business than basketball, because with basketball you never know what's going to happen with injuries, COVID, maybe the NCAA rules. You can't get an event one year. A guy transfers at the last second. So it's been consistently great, since 2002, and it's just got incrementally better. And then this year, we at the last second, we're going to cancel, and we went virtual, and the Zoom saved us. The Zoom's amazing. And I'm old, so young guys like you, who really know the technology, so we have some young people who helped us, set up the whole camp on Zoom. You go into the breakout rooms, and you can teach anchoring and play-by-play and pull down videos and talk over highlights and do PTI contests and do sports talk radio and do podcasts. And it's real eye-opening. But I've enjoyed it. We're going into our 20th summer.
Wow. Yeah. That's big right there.
About 8,000 kids have gone through it, and we've got former campers who are on ESPN and MLB Network and NHL Network, and people who got some really good jobs, who went further in sports broadcasting than I did.
Wow. That's big right there. That's wonderful. So you said, what was the statistics? You said how many sportscasters came through it? 8,000?
Oh no, that's how many kids have gone to the camp. It might be more like 7,000. But I'd say there's a good 200 who have really good jobs in the business. So some kids just come for fun and they go for 1 year and they never do it again. Some kids go for 7 years and then they end up just going to college and just do a regular thing. But then there's hundreds and hundreds who are working in the field or trying to work in the field. This is what they wanted to do, and that's kind of what I thought. I was like, I wanted to give an opportunity for somebody to get on the air at a young age and not wait till they were 33 years old like I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of a late bloomer, and I never got a full-time job in television and radio, but I got plenty of on-air work, but never full-time. But some of our kids now, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, they're jumping right into great jobs, great full-time jobs.
Exactly. So these are kids from around the Philadelphia area or kids from different states?
All over the country now. It started with Philly.
Wow.
We got a camp in LA, in Atlanta, in Florida, North Jersey, Boston. We were about to start Denver with COVID ruined that, but we're gonna go back to Denver. We've been in Dallas for 4 or 5 years now. No, these kids are from all over. And when Sports Illustrated for Kids became a partner with us, kids would fly in to to different camps.
Wow, you gotta do New York. I think there's a lot of kids out here that would definitely benefit from that camp. I think that would be really good.
Oh, maybe. Well, there's a program we're doing. Maybe you can help us with that. Well, North Jersey's been good. We struggled in Long Island. Long Island didn't work. New York City itself, I think I always felt we'd get swallowed up, but maybe someone like you who knows New York could give us some advice. But North Jersey has been great. So we get a lot of New Yorkers who come. So
okay, come across the bridge. Got you.
Yeah, they come to Montclair and they can stay over. See, we have overnights, so it's 40% of the kids stay overnight. So yeah, that's been a good solution for us, for kids who in the New York traffic. I mean, or North Jersey traffic, you can only go like 6 miles in 30 minutes. So if you're in Montclair, New Jersey, and that technically is only 10 or 15 miles from where you are, but it could take you 3 hours to get there.
It's a long way. It's a long way. But you could take that. You could take that train from Penn Station from 34th Street. Only thing is that train comes probably once an hour, maybe. But
the trains do, but you got to remember these are 14 and 15-year-old kids. So
that's true.
That's why we tell the parents, just stay over. We'll watch them. We've got counselors. They'll have a great time. We'll play wiffle ball and football at night, and we'll do broadcasting by the day. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I can't complain. The things I started are the things I like, which is business, basketball, kids, and sports. So when you can put your whole life in these things and help kids, it's been great. It's been wonderful.
You've been blessed. So in recent years, so you also last year you had two major showcases. The one with Camden and Roman Catholic again in 2019 with DJ Wagner and Lynn Greer. Like, talk about that game first. Like, you guys had it packed.
That was a game. There are 2 games ever in the history of play-by-play classics where I wish I had it somewhere else. But I made the decision that the first year DJ that all the games are going to be at Cherry Hill East, any game I got. And I just felt like if it was my decision, I was going to wait and see, because he's only 9th grade. That one specific game, because Jalen Duren was on Roman, Justice Williams was on Roman, that game probably could have been at the Palestra, in retrospect. Now, again, I wasn't allowed to use the Palestra. So now the rules have changed. This year I could have. You just need a host school. And I had it all worked out. However, it was a phenomenal game. It was the only game Camden lost. Camden was actually the best high school team I saw last year. Brunson should have been the national coach of the year. I don't even know if USA Today ever named it coach of the year, but I wrote a letter. On Rick's behalf on my own without telling him. I just thought he should have got it because I thought he did a great job.
It's a shame that he left Camden, but
he's back.
He came back to Camden.
Go look on Inquirer.com. It's apparently changed his mind. That happened since I've been talking today. So I don't know if that's just for a year. I'm not really sure, but I believe he's coming back.
Wow. Well, I just like everybody out there is so skeptical about there not being a season, but I'd like to take the high road and, be optimistic for the sake of these kids. What will be, and if not, what will be, will be.
Right. Well, I think there'll be a limited season with no fans in most places and probably just league games. I don't think the travel's going to happen.
That's fair. I'll take that.
But club teams in AAU, as long as the states that they're in allow it, can do it. Now, the state of New Jersey shut down right now. Pennsylvania may be shutting down. Unfortunately, we got to be safe. I mean, my event tomorrow will probably be the last one. It could be the last one I have the entire year. Who knows? I don't know how bad the spike's going to be. Nobody knows. Nobody has any answers, Dave. I don't know. You know, it's just a very unfortunate situation, and everybody's trying to make the best of it. I'm amazed how well people have done during this time.
You know. Oh yeah, he's Phil Anastasia. I'm just looking at Phil Anastasia's article. He did come back.
How about that? I thought it was a joke. Somebody texted to me. I go, "Oh my God."
Interesting.
Well, it is interesting. I'm sure there's a lot. I don't know what. I don't know the details of either decision. You know.
Well, we'll find out about Jersey next weekend, because that's the next Friday is the day they rule as to whether the season will go on or not.
Is that right? Not, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Jersey. But you know, some people out here in New York, they're adamant that it's not gonna happen. But I mean, like the start date for New York basketball is January 4th, supposedly. But you know, I'd like to remain optimistic until I hear a news report.
I'm with you. Until it's done, it's not done.
Until it's final, then keep hope alive, like Jesse Jackson. So, another game I wanted to talk about. When you guys went to Columbus.
Sierra the Bronny game last year. Yeah, we got to talk about the Bronny
St.
game.
Vincent. Like that right there was big. Like let's talk about that game.
Okay. So this one I'm going to take credit for being brilliant because this was my most brilliant idea. I've been keeping my eye on DJ and I've been keeping my eye on Bronny's kid. We didn't even know what high school he was going to. When he ended up at Sierra Canyon, I was cold calling. I said, and I came with the idea, I think you should play your father's school, Bronny's father's school, and do it in Ohio. And it took a while, but they finally called back and we worked it out and they came. And again, you just don't know, is 1,000 people going to come? Is 3,000? Is 5,000? Is 8,000? We had about 8,500 tickets sold 2 days before the event, and we ended up at 13,300. And where I was sweating that one out because it's expensive when I'm doing these things. I mean, most people, this is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, like it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money just to rent that facility out. Imagine that's like you said with the Garden, they wanted 90,000 up front. Like, you know, a lot of people don't see.
It wasn't the Garden, but yeah, the Garden's a whole nother strategy.
But
imagine if there was a snowstorm. Okay, so people look at you and they think this is so easy. Imagine if there's a snowstorm. Imagine if the plane doesn't get there. I mean, you know, there's a million things on you.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but it was so awesome because LeBron was able to come, and it was so awesome because it was the one game Bronny scored double figures last year, and to hand him the MVP, and he legitimately earned it. And we made a little screenshot of me handing LeBron a trophy in 2003 and me handing his son a trophy last year. We sent it to Willie McGee, who's the athletic director at St. Vincent-St. Mary, who was one of LeBron's best friends. I said, give it to LeBron right now. Send it to LeBron right now. 10 seconds later, LeBron posts on his Instagram. And that was a big milestone. That was a top 5 moment for us. He said the same guy who gave me an MVP just gave my son an MVP.
Wow.
And then he also did an article. He said this was one of the most happiest moments of my life. Like, so an idea I came up with, LeBron James is like talking on ESPN. This is one of the happiest moments of my life. I mean, it's like that guy's had like a million happy moments. So like he's saying this moment that I had something to do with was one of the happy moments of my life. That was pretty cool.
17 years later, his son is doing his thing in that event. That like, how about that?
Can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
You can't make, you know, the Kobe Bryant, Dajuan Wagner, LeBron James stuff. You just you can't make these things up.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard got people like that to play, and then everything around them. Like, it's hard. It's hard getting these high-profile players when they're in high school because, you know, they have, you know, you have to deal with multiple people just to get to them. And then when they get to that next level, college, you have to deal with a whole governing body, a.k.a. the athletic communication / SIDs. who probably, from your experience covering college sports, you know they're going to give you a hard time. Sometimes they'll work with you, and then other times they won't. And in the end, once they get to the NBA, forget about it. Agents, so
it's harder at that level. That's why I like staying at the grassroots level. It's hard enough at the grassroots level, but Dave, like you said, I got a 20-year track record, 21-year track record. You can't find anything bad that's ever happened with the play-by-play classic or anything with these kids, and these schools and coaches, they like dealing with me, and I like dealing with them, and I know how to treat kids. I know how to treat parents and coaches and people with respect, and it's just common decency that really is it's the same reason you're respected so much. When I see Del Greco Wilson writing things about you, or other guys, Big Dave Cordova from New York's coming in, great guy, and I couldn't agree more. That's why I'm on your Zoom right now, because of the respect I have for you. It's just you just keep being a nice guy and just keep treating people right, and you go far.
Yes, indeed. So I have one question before I get to the final question that I always love to ask my guests. If you could go back to 1987, what would you tell a younger Jeremy Treatman as he's transitioning from Washington University to Temple and interviewing Dr. J in that locker room? What would you tell him? If you could go back into a time machine, what would you go back and tell that younger Jeremy then?
I would be more aggressive about getting the television job and not being afraid of leaving home and going away for a couple of years and getting some TV experience. I think that's one thing. Because by the time I really knew I wanted it, I was here in Philly, and it's hard to break into a top 5 market. So I got plenty of per diem jobs and part-time jobs and a high school sports show, and I think it would have been nice to give it a try. That's one thing. Like I told you before, I was a late bloomer. Start the sports broadcasting camp 5 years earlier than I did. I just, eventually I get around to doing all the things I want to do. But sometimes, people, I'm like anyone else. You get nervous. You get anxious. You're not sure if it'll work. You're not sure if you have the money. You're not sure. So that's why I started the camps, to teach these kids to have confidence and go for it right then at 21, 22. Whatever it is, go for it. Don't let anybody hold you back. So that's probably something that jumps at me.
Indeed. Final question. What's next in the future? I'm sorry?
I said, yes, sir.
Oh, final question. What's next in the future for Jeremy Treatman and the Scholastic Play-by-Play Classic?
Well, I think we got a good 6 to 10 years left. I like doing these preseason tournaments. So we're going to be doing them with Westchester. I might do a couple more. We have games set up with Amani Bates right now that I don't know how they're going to happen, because the states they're in are, all the arenas are telling me that we can't do it with COVID over the next 3 months. It looks like. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. The one thing I'd like to do, last year I got on ESPN and I broadcast 3 games as a play-by-play announcer. I would like to get back on TV more. That's what I'm working on. And I'm also looking at, I helped a guy write a book on Kobe right now. Me and Greg Down are helping a guy, and that book will be out this year. But I want to write a book about all these stories that we're interviewing about right now. I got a lot of stories with a lot of guys, and I think that'll be on my agenda. That's on my bucket list to write a book.
Now, this is my bucket question. So these games that you're talking about with Imani, will there be a game in Cleveland? Is that one of them?
Yeah, it was, you're getting breaking news. It was set up with St. Vincent-St. Mary, December the 22nd, but it's at the Cavs Arena, but it's canceled right now. So, canceled, postponed. I don't know if it's going to happen, but because they're in Michigan, only 2 hours away, or maybe 2.5 hours away. if we can get it in March, we'll get, or late February, we'll get it in. But we just got to wait it out.
Yeah, I was ready to book my ticket too, man. I was ready to book my ticket and hotel for that too. But I'll see Amani on November 28th in Dallas.
Are you going?
Yes, I am.
Really? Because I think I might be going. You just going as a fan, or you covering it?
No, I'm covering it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one they're playing Duncanville?
Yes, they are.
So we're looking at Texas right now too, because Texas is the only place that seems to be allowing these events with fans right now.
Them in Arizona, the wild West.
But Arizona doesn't have the arenas.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
I mean, only the Suns arena. Working on it. Well, this is all happening as we're speaking.
Yeah.
Well, I might see you on November the 28th down there.
Indeed. Jeremy, thank you for coming on to share your story. And I wish you and Scholastic play-by-play, nothing but the best moving forward.
My pleasure. Great being with you, Dave.
Indeed. Well, everybody, this is episode 87 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout out to my man, Jeremy Treatman of the Scholastic Play-by-Play Classic. For everybody in the Philadelphia and South Jersey area, for those that support Scholastic Play-by-Play, his camps, his tournaments, and everything else, check out this interview on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. Stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.